so many loopholes. But the thing is, it's so behind other industries.
Yeah.
And right now they're exploiting it. And as everybody increases their security measures and trains people better, and we get to a point where, you can verify at loads, like at pickup and different things, like different steps will be taken to where they're just going to see like, oh, it's not worth the trouble anymore. They're going to shift to some other industry.
Dynamic Logistix is on a mission to create a better carrier experience with every single shipment. That means offering carriers competitive rates, communicating proactively, matching profile preferences with available loads, and processing automated payments within 48 hours of shipment delivery. Check them out at dynamiclogistix.com. That's logistics with an X. Welcome to another episode of the Freight Caviar podcast. Today we are in a special setting. We are in Warsaw, Poland. We are here with Andrey from Verified Carrier, Bob from USA Transportation, Tom Stawinski, and me, the co-founder of Freight Caviar and Shipper CRM. Andrey, thanks for flying out here. You flew in from Vancouver, Washington. Bob flew in from Charlotte, North Carolina. Tom drove from Białystok, Poland. And I live here in Warsaw. So we're all going to have a discussion about carrier fraud. What is Verified Carrier? What makes Verified Carrier different? Going to talk about various topics related to logistics, and really looking forward to a lot of discussions that are going to be taking place. But quickly, Andrey, if you give us a quick intro, and then Bob will follow, and then Tom.
I might talk about kombucha too. Yeah, fair warning for everybody. Verified Carrier, I head up strategic relations. Glad to come out here. Pretty cool how it all worked out with various people here. I actually have my wife join me. We'll make the trip a little bit longer. But yeah, Verified Carrier, we are a vetting platform. So everybody knows fraud's rampant, cargo theft, fraud, double brokering. So all this different stuff. We want to get rid of it by letting people know who real carriers are. Because ultimately, the way a lot of this stuff happens is you're not going to get freight as a double broker if you don't pretend to be a carrier first. And it's so hard to know who the real guys are versus the fake companies, people who inflate their numbers, people in other countries literally pretending to have trucks and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
That's our whole thing. That's what we want to do. We want to let people know who the real hardworking people are so that this money stays where it's supposed to.
Okay. And so that's kind of like, we talked about this before a little bit. I asked whether RMIS, because like RMIS is the big verifier that I'm familiar with that a lot of brokerages are using to set up and do company setups. And then obviously the Carrier 411. Are you guys more like RMIS? Or are you more like Carrier 411? Or?
So I would say we're more on strictly just the vetting. I know that there's some platforms that are, maybe they do both. Maybe they're just an onboarding platform where they partner with one of these other platforms for the vetting piece.
Who does that? Is that like an example of that?
Well, like RMIS is an onboarding platform. So if you want to work with somebody, that's where you fill out the packet. With us, you're not filling out a packet. Like somebody might use RMIS and still say, hey, but I want you to become a verified carrier before you haul my, high value freight. So then you do the.
So you guys are more like a vetting platform, and that's RMIS is a onboarding platform. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to actually people that don't understand? Because I think that's going to be a little bit of confusing too, like the difference between onboarding, and verifying, I guess, carriers.
Yeah. So the onboarding platforms,
go deep into it.
Yeah. When you want to get set up, you probably should talk about the onboarding. Like when do you fill out?
Usually the way we set up our packets, like if we want to work with the broker, we call on a load and they're like, oh, you're not, you have to get onboarded first. So they'll send us a link, we'll actually fill out the link like through what's the first one you said?
RMIS.
And that's the most common one.
Yeah, RMIS and Highway, and then I think there's a couple other ones. Actually, or even the old style, they'll send you actually like an email and you'll have to go through it and just plug it in through like a doc whatever, file. So that's the way to do it,
Bob has a trucking company, by the way, for anyone that might not know.
Yeah.
So essentially, the way I look at it is those packets you're filling out, you're basically creating a contract saying like, all right, me and Paul are going to work together. It'll make future transactions easier. we know what our expectations are of each other.
And that's what
How he's going to pay me, how I'm going to do whatever service I'm giving him. What we do, on the other hand, is, all right, so before you make a payment with somebody, I'm trying to think of the best case that I can think of is like the TSA pre-check, right? Imagine if you had to go through extra layers of security at every single airport, right? Like, it's already bad enough what we have to do. But TSA pre-check, they do a little bit of extra work, a little bit of extra background. Maybe you come into an office or answer some questions. Like, I have the global entry, right? I had to go to office. Once I do that process, I do it once. Now, any airport that I go to, I got the check mark.
That's smart. And you don't have to wait in line. And
you don't have to wait in line. So you fill out a packet with one broker, then you want to work with another one for this different load. You have to fill out another packet.
Yeah.
Our goal is, when these brokerages look you up, you're either a verified carrier or you're not.
Okay.
They're not going to ask you to become like, hey, become a verified carrier for me to work with me, even though you did it for, Echo or CHR or for another company.
Right.
Like, you already did it. They look and they're like, oh yeah,
that makes sense.
you got 8 points of verification. Like, you guys are solid. That's awesome. Yeah, we just started using verified carrier 3 weeks ago. Like, you're good to go. That's
smart. But then how would it work? So, for example, like brokerages with onboarding, they would still need to send you kind of a contract, right? So they would still need to do a little bit of onboarding for that specific.
Yeah. They would still do whatever they do,
but then they don't.
And then they just have this additional layer of protection.
Yeah.
Where right now you just get directed to our page, you do your stuff back, we shoot back, what your result is.
And that's the broker doing that work or the carrier doing?
That's the broker doing that work, but the broker invites the carrier. If the carrier is not a verified carrier, if they're already verified, then whatever steps you do to onboard with them, they're like, oh, verified carrier, you're already done. That's, you got a check mark there.
I'm curious, Andrey, if you could walk us through what exactly is getting verified. Because if you go to TSA pre-check, obviously they're doing background checks, they're asking you questions. What does it mean to be verified? What information are you taking that makes them that they're secure?
Yeah, so I guess there's also some confusion. What I wanted to clear up too is when people are scared, oh no, they're gonna see how I do business or do this, that we don't care necessarily about your operations, right? Whatever you do, how you work, you do with the broker and your customers, however you guys run, that's your thing. Our thing is, we just want to separate the wheat from the chaff. It's just so hard to know if it's a real company,
right?
Or somebody books a load, you don't know that a double broker put that up.
Yeah,
they look like it's a broker that's legitimately shipping a shipper's load, but all they did is just take it from somebody else, put it back on a load board, and now you are unknowingly participating in a double broker.
Yeah.
So they might just stiff you and shut the MC
Honestly,
down.
I was just participating in a scam at our warehouse. So somebody came to CrossDock. I told you about this, right?
Yeah, I did.
So they brought a load. It was 9 pallets of copper, and it was heavy. It was one pallet was more than 5,000 pounds, I think. But basically my forklift was like this, backing up. And they brought it in, and I'm like, something is sketchy. So they drop off those 9 pallets. He's like, hey, I got to cross-dock this load, which happens all the time. That's the service we provide. So they drop it off, and I'm like, something's weird. So I asked the guy. He doesn't drop off any paperwork or nothing. Leaves the freight at my warehouse, So then the broker calls me, or the guy that was cross-docking, and he's like, hey, I'm going to have somebody come pick it up. And then he sends one truck in. He's like, load only 3 pallets into this truck. I'm like, that's so weird, So I load up 3 pallets. Then he sends another truck, a box truck. I load up 2 pallets into that. And then he sends another truck and then I load up 2 more pallets. So he split up the load 3 different ways, And then so I loaded up whatever. He pays me my thing. They all deliver, or they all go out for deliver. But the sketchiest part is they didn't bring any paperwork, or they didn't even show me where the load was going. He's like, hey, I'm just picking up those 2 pallets. So I'm like, whatever. On Saturday, I was out of town. I get a call, and they're like, hey, do you provide cross-dock? And I'm like, yeah, I do. He's like, hey, this is a broker. It's funny because he actually recognized my voice from USA Transportation. He's like, hey, is this Bob? I'm like, yeah. He's like, any chance you had 9 pallets at your warehouse? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, somebody stole that load. So literally the whole weekend, they were trying to track and find that load where it was.
Copper, right?
Yeah, it was copper. It was worth, each pallet was $28,000. So it was over $200,000 of copper that was stolen.
And do you think they came to hide it at your warehouse, Ken?
No, the way they do it, so they try to lose track of it and kind of mix it up.
Use a tracker.
Yeah. So then the broker tells me, he's like, there was a tracker in one of the pallets. So that's how they found out that it was at my warehouse. They showed up there, And I'm like, the freight is long gone. And I told him everything. I sent him all the screenshots of all the text messages, and then he told me last time I talked to him, they found the 5 pallets and then they found the other 2 pallets, but like, I don't know if they found the rest of it, but that's crazy. Yeah. There's so much scams going on.
So I'm just curious, sorry, Andrey, like, let's just say Bob was using verified carrier and like this guy called in, he's like, hey, I want to cross-dock a load. Could Bob like put his MC in and be like, oh, you got to be verified, or you are a verified carrier, so come in? Like, would that make sense? Just because like, you don't want obviously that situation to happen again.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or cross-docking, right? Like, it's possible. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to
do
do that as well. But our idea is an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. Like, we don't even want it to get to a point where Bob's getting called. Like, Bob should just know that a carrier's coming. This carrier is legit because a broker booked them.
Yeah.
And they were legit at the time of booking. The way that it happens oftentimes is you get somebody who they know all the right stuff. Either they bought an MC or they nurture an MC, right?
Yeah.
They'll do business and they'll double broker and at best they're gonna just skim, but they'll just actually pay carriers and they'll a few years get into this brokerage, get everybody's trust before doing the shady real shady stuff. But at the end of the day, they pretend to be a real carrier so that they can get their hands on freight and they turn around and double broker it or set it up to get stolen. Or, I mean, if you could double broker it and then have it get stolen by the other person and just say like, oh, I don't know, I gave it to this carrier. I thought it was a carrier, it was a broker. They're like, oh man, that sucks. Yeah. And even if you find the double broker, oftentimes all they have to do is say, what? That's crazy, man. My license got stolen. Somebody must have stolen my identity. Yeah. Like, I don't know what happened. And that's it. The trail stops. Like, you can't do anything with that.
It's so hard to stop that. So
our thing is, if you're going to have a verified carrier profile, if you're going to get set up and we're going to give you the check mark, we need to see a driver's license or other government issued ID. Then we're going to do a facial recognition scan so that the owner is like saying like, hey, no, this is my company. Bob comes in and claims like, I am the owner of USA Transportation. So now if anybody else tries to go in there and tries to steal a password or this or that, like, they can't fudge the steps because we do 8 points of verification. We're going to look at his license. If he has a safety manager and that person does it, Bob's still going to get a link to do the same 2 steps and say, hey, this guy works for me or this gal works for me.
Okay.
Then they continue. Yeah. Then they're going to link up their, he would log in like a bill pay, like, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America. You click on. We don't see the details. Like, that stuff doesn't concern us, but we want to see who owns this account and where's it at. The way some people do it is...
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
So that's one thing when I signed up because we signed up with the verified carriers, and we did have to go through all the process, with the licenses, and it's very smooth, actually, very smooth process, like very easy.
Time-wise, 10 minutes, 30 minutes.
So it depends on your fleet because we had to plug in every single cab card in there. So it depends how good you have it set up. Good thing we have Diana, she's amazing at what she does. So everything was exactly older. So she just uploaded it really quick and that went pretty smooth. Only thing I was we kind of waited till the last minute. I didn't understand the bank thing. So can you explain a little bit more about that?
That's a great question because the bank thing is where some people do get hung up because they think they're gonna sync up my bank like we're we're a mortgage company. We're gonna start pulling money out. We can't do that. We don't have that ability. That's not the whole point of it. The whole point of it is to verify the identity. It's like another piece that closes this identity loop, essentially to say you are who you are. Because for brokerage, somebody goes to a person, buys their MC off them, like, hey, I'll give you $3-4 grand. Times are hard. They're like, yeah, I could use the money. They think they're selling their business. They didn't. They sold their login credentials for the MC. Now you got to use login.gov. So maybe they'll give you a couple, grand more to get your phone number, email address, so you can get the codes now.
Interesting.
Yeah. But one thing they won't do is nobody wants to be involved in any fraud. So you're not going to give somebody your banking information that's linked to your social.
Yeah.
Right. And so what they do is they're already working with a big brokerage. They send the brokerage a check. Let's just imagine ABC Express in Washington. They open up ABC Express in California.
Okay.
Right. And they send a check They change the address to make it look like it's the same address because they don't want to make it look like the ownership changed. They want to make it look like it's the same people they've been loading for years that they trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no way to know. They literally looks like they just switched bank accounts, but it's two completely separate legal entities, separate ownership, separate companies. And so that's oftentimes how they get away with it. So for us,
there's what's like little detail that the RMIS and the other setup things will miss.
Yeah, follow the money. Our whole thing is follow the money. If you can follow the money, you know where it's going. Because they're not going to trust that person that they bought the MC from to receive the money and like send them money weekly or monthly, right? No one's going to.
And that person would be putting themselves at risk.
They would be put because that's really, really suspicious. So then that's the whole thing is like all it does is just say like Bob owns it. Bob logs in. The company, you know, the beneficiary is USA Transportation or it's Bob's name. And we're like, yep, Bob, the insurance, USA Transportation, right? Like all of it points back to Bob.
Yeah.
And so this whole thing is they know which check boxes right now to check to make it look like they're legit. And that's how they can do it. And I mean, double brokering is like $700-800 million a year that they're stealing out of the industry.
Yeah.
And they're doing it by pretending to be carriers. And so Bob's booking a load off the board, right? Like $4,500. He's like, it's kind of low. You know, it's going to the East Coast from the West Coast. They'll book whatever it is, not knowing that somebody already booked it for $5,100. They're just reselling this load. And so they're literally just like sucking out.
Well, you've heard the scammers, like the scammers, pure scammers, they'll actually post it for more. So for example, we had a scam. Yeah. For example, we had an issue where it was also like one of our dispatchers booked a load out of like, I think it was like Utah or something, which the area didn't pay good, but he booked it for a really good rate, you know? And then we dig into it. And we're like, this is a straight up double brokered load. The CH owned that load. So we reach out to our rep and I think they paid us, the scammer paid us like $5,000 or something for it. It was going towards east. And then CH, we reach out to our rep and he's like, hey, do you guys have this load? And he's like, yeah, we do. Or like, what's the rate on it? He's like $4,100 or something like that. So they like bumped up the price to make it more to get you in. You know what I'm saying?
But what's the scam like? Do you think they're going to pay?
No, the ones that don't pay and the ones that do pay.
Yeah, so at best, they're going to skim the double brokers, and at worst, they're going to stiff you.
They're not going to pay.
So they're going to make it look like really attractive so that you absolutely pounce on it, call it.
Yeah,
and you're never going to collect.
But the worst part now too. So what I've noticed, and actually like, is they steal the product. So imagine they brokered it out to us, right? And they're like, hey, deliver it to this warehouse instead of this warehouse. So now they're delivering it to a completely different warehouse that's not even where it's supposed to go to the receiver. So now they're actually stealing the whole load. So it depends what it is.
Yeah, this is like I forgot, Scott Cornell at Travelers called it like I don't know if it's like an unwitting victim. Like it's like you don't know.
Yeah.
You're a carrier victim in the sense that you're part of a scam, but you think you're running freight legit.
Yeah.
You know, they say, oh no, like we're going to have to redirect it, stop at this random location. Sure. We're going to need to cross dock it. And then they do this sort of stuff like with those copper pallets.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's at best they're skimming. So they're just pulling out margin. At worst, they're still the carrier. And at worst, they're stealing it. They're never going to deliver it. It literally, they might just quick pay all across the board. They book as many as they can.
Yeah.
Right. And then phone number goes dark. Website, if there even was one, doesn't exist anymore. Sure. And I forgot who it was. There was I don't want to throw out any countries. But
if I'm throwing
there was one where somebody's on the phone and he's like, haha, I got you and 4 of your other MCs. You're busted, dude. I'm reporting to the FNCSA. He's like, good luck, buddy. He's like, I have 300 other ones, right? So it's, how can he do that?
Yeah.
Because there is no
also
way to know. But there's no way to know that someone's legitimate. And even if you do find out that it's that individual, there's no prosecution. You can't go after him.
Exactly.
And so you're supposed to be operating or declaring that you're a foreign entity. And that's what we want to do. We essentially just want to say like, hey, no, Bob's a real guy. Like, go to a brokerage and be like, we can vouch for him. We know he showed us this, and that. We can say he's legit.
Yeah.
We can say we know how many trucks he has.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like, we can't speak for him. We don't know.
Definitely. You said there's 8 points of verification, and you talked about a few of them. I don't think we went through all of them yet. Can you discuss the other ones? Because the banking is huge, right?
Yeah, the banking is huge.
Which other ones are like really important?
Well, Bob knows, but you go in, your registration. So we want to know that the vehicle is active. Anyone could throw VINs from, a frame sitting in a junkyard. You want to know that these are actively on the road. Then we're going to reach out to the insurance on your behalf, and we're going to confirm all the vehicles you have.
You do that behind the scenes.
all that.
Yeah, my insurance actually like emailed me. They're like, "Hey, is this okay? Is this did you guys sign up for this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, of course."
No, I mean,
I'm here.
Then you get just the tax or
like not verified carrier.
So
Lost my status.
because the other thing is, you could like add real VIN numbers all day long,
Yeah.
but you don't actually have anything insured. To have a policy, here's the thing. Here's the crazy part. Because I worked before as a safety compliance director. Like I know I can just file an MCS 150.
Yeah.
Right? Company has 10 trucks. I go in, I say, we have 120 trucks.
Yeah.
People go to the Safer portal and look, officially, these guys have 120 trucks officially on a government website. Nobody comes and checks that I have 120 trucks. Nobody.
Yeah.
Sure. There's nothing to stop me from doing it.
Why didn't the government do something about that, though?
That's a great question.
Because it is self-reporting. Like,
I don't.
It's self-declared, and that's the issue. And then a lot of these platforms will go and pull that public information.
Yeah.
And they try to do some AI twist and pull some other information from other places and inspections. And, there's some value to it, but there's also not value to it because you can rent trucks. And
So are the miles also self-reported?
Yeah.
Wow. So you could literally go
drivers, trailers, everything.
So essentially, if you're looking at the safer assist,
I'm the Miss 150, right? Or something like that.
MCS 150.
and you look at the data online, it just self-reported. So if you're a broker or carrier looking at that, it just there's no legitimacy.
And sometimes why carriers report a little bit more or less because even for their insurance, like, and like some companies will require you to have 20 trucks to run a certain load with them, so they'll report it,
exactly
20 trucks instead of 18 or 17.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's, people just do it all the time. It's a very common thing. Like, I wouldn't report it to crazy amount difference because I think they can get you somehow after that. But like, people always kind of twist the number.
Sure.
Yeah, if you get audited, they will know. They will actually check information and driver count and vehicle count and all this stuff. But that's like 1% of companies.
And do they then go report it to that?
Then they'll update it on there.
Yeah.
So if somebody has been audited, those are the only people who have legit information.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything else is self-reported. And that's the wild part is like, I want to work with Amazon. Amazon's like, I don't know what it is right now. Just a disclaimer, but let's just say you need minimum 50 trucks or 100 trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
with the verified carriers, you guys basically check the way to verify everything is by the cap card, right?
Cap card registration and insurance will prefer.
Yeah.
Well, these are the different pieces because the other piece is people throw on equipment. Like you have a Sprinter van and you got yourself this commercial policy. And that's the cheapest thing. But then you go file this thing and say you have 30 trucks. So you can now start booking 50, 60 loads a month.
Yeah.
Right. But you have a legit policy. You have an actual certificate of insurance. You can have any auto on there.
Yeah.
But nobody knows how many trucks you truly have.
Yeah. I mean, that is so important because it's also like a tedious part of being a freight broker is like having to call insurance companies and like verifying stuff. I used to do it all the time.
And like, not everyone has that knowledge level of it, right?
Yeah. But like for me, it's like actually having to call insurance companies is like the worst, and like having to verify. So you have that information. And I know that like there's been a lot of claims out there that like the carrier has a claim, but then it turns out like that truck wasn't insured. So like all of a sudden that's a huge claim that, the broker and the shipper have to work out, but it's technically the broker's fault because he didn't verify that the truck
on there.
The truck wasn't on there. So that happens quite often. And I know like, especially with high insurance rates nowadays, there's a lot of sketchy carriers that are just driving without having like legitimate insurance. And so like, I'm just curious, would verified carrier like have that insurance like information in there? So like, let's say a broker goes on verified carrier and they want to work with this carrier. Will they actually have the ability to find out like, okay, this truck is specifically insured and they could haul metals or something? Like, does that like,
so the different points you could go on and you could see the fleet information. So you'll have, for Bob's company, log in, you could actually see all the VINs.
Good question.
So he has all the VINs that he has.
Yeah.
Right. What you do with this information, because I like to tell people we do carrier identity vetting. We don't do like load level visibility. Right. Sure. Maybe in the future at some point, like this truck is pulling up. Okay. Right now, what you would do is you want to know that it's Bob's truck. You check that the VIN number is one of his and his fleet. Okay. And these vehicles are all attested for.
Got it.
And
they're insured. So
that's how you know, because if it's missing any one of those pieces, then he can't add that to his fleet. It'll just be like grayed out. Like this is a self-declared vehicle, or this vehicle was on inspection before, but he didn't provide us registration, cap card, and insurance didn't confirm. So we can't say that it's currently part of his fleet, right? Because people buy trucks and sell trucks. You can rent trucks and get inspections.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop you from doing that.
Yeah, that's what some double brokers do.
Yeah. Well, that's if you want to look legit. That's why for us, we want to move away from that. And on verified carrier, you can see the inspections. We'll show it to you just like anybody. We track stuff daily, all the FMCSA inspections, all registrations, changes in vehicle count, all this stuff. We're pulling it.
Yeah.
But that's not our core focus. Our core focus is we want to actively vet and actively monitor.
Yeah.
Meaning like we need real information.
Okay.
Right? Like the bank's not going to give you a loan and just have you like, I make $15,000.
Well, they did right in 2000. They did inside. Look where that.
So the whole thing is they need to manually like ask you for information, need to actively provide information, then they need to actively vet this information and underwrite it before they say it's legit. And so, like we're not as crazy as banks, but right now there's just nothing in the industry that's where we come in. And so that's where, you look up that this vehicle is actually part of his fleet as it shows up. You can do that. You can check.
Okay.
Questions. Eventually, do you guys think you're going to have like a rating for certain carriers or no?
Like you want to stay away from that.
Just verified and that's it, right?
Yep. Just verified or not verified. And so the steps that we mentioned so far could get you verification. There's additional steps that some brokerages might want and to get you the full 8 points of verification. It's not necessarily about your identity, but it's just layering up on what you're showing and how transparent you are with your business. Like we'll do the inspections, but like I said, there's ways to fudge those numbers, or worse, for owner ops. You went through the CSVA blitz, you get the sticker on your windshield, you're using a bypass service, you go months and months without an inspection.
Yeah.
And so then that guy's calling for loads, real guy, stateside, real truck, just trying to feed his family. And he's calling in, they're like, hey, you haven't been inspected for 8 months, 14 months, whatever it is. Like you're a double broker. I'm not going to give you a load. Hang up on him.
Yeah.
And so with
those people, like, tries to head into a scale house and be like, hey, can I get an inspection? They're like, yeah, speed down the road and we'll get you an inspection. That's literally what they say.
And so the inspections were for safety. They're not for showing you if someone's real or not.
Yeah.
But they are great because they do have a timestamp, a real officer.
Yeah.
They record VINs. But it's like
that right there is such a fundamental, like important mistake where like brokers are not understanding that and they're blaming people that just passed a test that's hard to pass. It's like they should be giving you a pat on the back, but instead they're like, oh, you're getting punished because you
don't have an inspection yet.
Right, yeah, but you're getting rolled up with the bad guys because of the metrics are wrong.
Yeah.
So what we do is we'll actually look at your bypass information. We'll pull that in.
Yeah.
And it's third party, so you can't fudge it. It's not self-declared. We'll look at your fleet tracking. We'll pull that information in. And now we could give you different maps.
Bypass is the stuff for the scales, right? Just
it could be your pre-pass, your drive-wise. So we'll show you like, all right, even if you're getting a green light, like you're getting a green light, you don't have to pull in. There's a ping that's recorded.
Yeah.
And so if you leave like the Portland metro area, Portland, Oregon, by the time you hit Idaho, you're gonna get 3 pings, even if you didn't pull into any of those stations.
Andrey, if you could maybe explain to them, because do you guys know what it is? Like,
I get
how scales work and stuff? Okay.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, Tom actually used to have a truck.
Oh, yeah.
Go into the details for any of that.
So,
because I think a lot of people don't know, but like each scale has a, you could go in.
Each scale has
you know better than I do.
They have like a scanner, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you cross that scanner.
Yeah, and it says to pull in or not. And you got to pull in because the whole thing is your truck is rated for a certain weight. You legally can drive up to a certain limit unless you have special equipment and a special permit to exceed those weights. And those weights have to be distributed between your axles to not make it too heavy, to, less likely. Everything's about protecting the public because trucks are 80,000 pounds loaded. So
if you're loaded wrong, you're dangerous.
Maintaining it, if you're not loading it correctly, if you're not driving carefully, if it's not a specially trained CDL driver, like that's just a weapon at that point. Like you in Colorado, unfortunately, there was that situation where they didn't do the maintenance. Brakes were bad. That guy killed like 5 or 6 people. And so that's what that stuff is about. It's a whole different thing. It's not about your identity.
To protect you from being a wreck.
It's safety.
But then
prevent
you guys,
crashes.
Yeah, but then you guys are using, so a lot of truckers, they have like the pre-pass or the bypass, and you guys have that software integrated with you where you could see that, hey, this truck actually is driving and is on the road. Right?
Correct. Yeah. So then we use that information to show like, all right, they're not getting inspections, but they are passing real weigh stations.
Exactly.
And this company has some technology in the truck that's recording this, and it's not coming from the carrier. It's not like saying like, "Yep, I passed 3 weigh stations. I'm gonna upload my or update my carrier."
Then I passed them.
Right? It's pulled in, and we show. You want to book a load with him? You could look. Yeah, like he's moving. Same thing with the fleet tracking. We're not going to show you where his truck is in real time. We're going to protect his carrier identity. Because people might truck.
That's actually very big too, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want people to know which shippers and receivers he's going to. They're direct customers, right? Like, so we protect that piece, but we'll show you in the last 30 days where his truck's traveled through.
Yeah.
So you don't have to ask him like, "Hey, Bob, what are your lanes? Like, where are you strong?" Like, you'll just literally look at the map and be like, dark blue, dark blue, dark blue. Oh, right, you run like east to west, or like, oh, you're really strong into Texas. Like, these are really dark states for you.
And you're saying that you guys do that.
We do that, so that you're not just relying on the DOT inspections. We'll give you the DOT inspections, but then we'll give you a layer of bypass information. We'll give you a layer of fleet tracking. So now you can actually get a much better picture of what he actually does.
That's sweet.
If you're essentially providing the inspection, let's say no one like the carrier doesn't have any inspections, you're like the inspector.
Yep, and they're providing the verified carriers. That's
exactly. Yeah, I know, but like I'm just trying to use the inspection.
And like when you're at a brokerage, a lot of times you're like you ask your carriers, "Hey, what lanes do you run?" Here you don't even necessarily have to ask that, although it's probably still good to ask. But here you kind of, if you have the verified carrier, you can just pull it up and it'll automatically show me where you're off and running. And
I'll ask that too. It's self-declared.
Yeah.
So like you write whatever you want.
Exactly. And now it's
And honestly, on a lot of tracking tools right now, they do the same.
Yeah.
Like we were at TIA and not Trucker Tools, but the other one, they had a thing where it was also showing their last, 30 runs. I think MacroPoint, they had everything.
Yeah.
It's becoming very big. And
it's good that they also have it, right?
Sure.
So like,
it's all
maybe you don't need
Well, like that's another thing that I do want to kind of, highlight. I think a lot of brokers don't understand about the inspections where like a new carrier does come in, and it's super hard to get inspected sometimes by the DOT. I've literally had stories where truckers pulled in, asked for an inspection because, their brokers needed it. And the DOT was literally like, drive off and speed down the road. We'll pull you over. We'll give you a ticket and get you inspected. But then you have a bad inspection, so they're not there to give you good inspection. They're kind of there to only find the bad stuff.
This is just to defend that. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's maybe like an incentive for the DOT to get a certain amount of violations out, because they're always looking for something to find.
Could it be that they want to catch you when maybe you're not like all shiny and prepared, but kind of when you're, just kind of
usually. So here's another thing: when you pull into a DOT scale, right? If your truck is nice and clean and shiny, they'll just bypass it. They're like, "Hey, keep going." They're actually picking out the bad truck.
But you look legit, right? Like if you look like you're put together, you take care of your equipment, are you the ones to worry about? Like the whole idea, like, is that the ones you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly. They're not trying to waste time on
right. Like it looks like a legit truck. All right, you're not a guy. Like, well, we want to see the guy where
the brokers have that misconception, like, oh, he doesn't have many inspections, so that's it. He's not legit.
But also from a broker's perspective, with all this fraud, it's difficult to know if you're legitimate without inspection. So that's why, like, it's instead of like me having to go through like all these hurdles to figure out if you're like legit,
and you still don't know after you do that.
It's like, unless like obviously they're like verified carrier, then it'll give you some kind of understanding, like, okay, this company's actually legitimate. But without that, like, it really is difficult. Like, I'd rather just not take the risk. I'd rather especially now in this market when it's so easy to find a truck, I'd rather find a truck that doesn't inspect.
No, and it's 100% true. Like if you have 20 trucks and you have zero inspection, something sketchy is going on. Like that's kind of common sense. But if you have one truck,
the owner operators ones that have one truck.
So they're the ones that are.
Some owner operators have been around for like 10-15 years, and I've heard they've never been as.
So you have this. It's a score. It's called the ISS score. Okay, and that's related to your safety. So if you hit a certain point, like before then, it's just green light. Unless something is really off. Then you go into this orange category, and there's a number, there's a range. Then it's like, it's the judgment call of the DOT officer at the station. And then if you're red, if you're above a certain threshold, you're automatically like inspect. So the companies who triggered themselves, whatever it was, unsafe driving, hours of service compliance, if they got themselves into these higher thresholds, they're getting more inspections. So the bad companies look more legit than the good companies that are flying under the radar.
They
respectful,
have
clean trucks.
Yeah,
those guys are just getting passed through, and so
I want to make sure like I re-summarize that just for like all the college kid brokers that are just starting, like they really understand that. So, okay, you have a trucking company and you're rolling and you're getting, say you're running 10 trucks and you're getting lots of inspections. Once you get into the orange, you're getting into the orange because you're failing on the way you're, what are some of those things?
Like you're not maintaining your trucks, your tires are shot, you know, so you get an inspection for your tires. Your drivers aren't.
So your score is going up each time, right?
And each time, and the DOT sees that, so the more violations you have,
the more they want to pull you off to hope that you improve.
Right, exactly.
To hope that you improve.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a person that has bad habits, and like, okay, they keep up bad habits, eventually they're going to get into a car crash.
Exactly.
Or like people that got good habits, they're driving safe, and like you're hoping to see that right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you're going, and you get into the orange zone. And now that's like, okay, there's a lot of bad habits. This guy's like risky. Does that include like I'm assuming accidents, those types of things?
There's thick categories. They're called the basic categories.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's your crashes, it's your driver fitness, right? Like your guys have med cards, they have CDLs, drug and alcohol, vehicle maintenance, hours of service compliance, unsafe driving. So all these different categories will increase that score.
Okay. And if I can spin off that a little bit, so say like you're a young guy that owns a trucking company, right? And so you're hiring drivers and you're doing drug tests and stuff, but like say you have 10 trucks and one of your guys like surprised you, one of your drivers, it's hard to get drivers, right? And he was driving under the influence of whatever, right?
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, shut down the company, you buy an MC and open.
But like, actually,
no, you got to improve it, obviously. So you have to.
So like that happens, that shoots your score off. Wait, now all your trucks are getting more.
Like it's going to be multiple things.
Yeah.
But usually, you have some sort of pattern of issues that's causing your scores to go up.
Yeah.
Because it's no one thing is gonna do it. Maybe for the owner ops, that might be the hardest. The bigger your company is, it kind of the numbers dilute a little bit more, and the clean inspections help.
They lower every time, and you kind of play this like jigsaw. What's that thing called? Jigsaw, I think.
No,
this jigsaw. Yeah, this balance.
Yeah.
But we're all Europeans,
so there's so many things that go into it. But at the end of the day, you know, and I think Paul said it right. Like you don't have anything else, so that's what people would gravitate towards because it's a metric, something that you could look at.
Yeah.
But the reason it exists is just for preventing crashes. Because it's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. That's what it is. It's about safety.
Right.
And that's what they do. And so a lot of people right now are like, why isn't the FMCSA doing this or that? And they're going to try. They're going to try to roll out some stuff. But it's the government. You know, they're always going to come out with a solution for 5 years ago.
Exactly.
You know, but no offense to anybody at the FMCSA. You guys are doing a great job. But it's just at the end of the day, people are looking to this metric for a different reason. And it's kind of like some of these other tools that people are using that 10 years ago, this stuff was awesome, right? It was cutting edge. But now all the scammers know how to trick all of that stuff. They manipulate it. They can make themselves look legit. And that's why we are where we're at, because they know how to jump through the hoops and show up with 9 pallets of copper. And literally, like, there's no way to know that that's not a legit guy, right? He's not going to call and ask around and get referrals for them to be able to use cross-dock service.
So honestly,
logistics. It's
the guy that brought those 9 pallets, he was a legit guy. He was hired. So I think the original carrier was the scammer. Then they have a brokerage too. So they double brokered that load out to a local guy that picked up the load close by Charlotte, brought it to my warehouse, dropped it off. So that guy had no idea.
So how about this? The broker, in this case, gave it to what they thought was a carrier, who turned out to be a double broker.
Right.
Or just literally...
They would have never made it to the warehouse.
Yeah.
They have that broker saw that this guy's not legit.
Yeah.
Then he would have known. He would have just not gotten the load.
Yeah.
And then all this would have been prevented.
I'm curious, like, will Verified Carrier implement like something for carriers to check brokers eventually? Or is that something more complicated? Because I know like a lot of carriers want to like check out brokers, but at the end of the day, it's like so difficult to do because, you know, like there's only so many brokers, and especially in this given market, like you want to work with like if you're a carrier, you want to work with as many brokers as possible. you kind of ignore the reviews and stuff like that. But obviously, there's a lot of scammers, like, so like, is there like, do you foresee a future where verified carrier will do this for like verified broker?
I mean, I think downstream, not just the brokerage, like different aspects of the supply chain need additional layers of vetting.
Okay.
But for the time being, I think the crux of our problem, like the biggest problem isn't just the shady brokers, it's the shady brokers who pretend to be good carrier. Because again, that story repeats itself hundreds to thousands.
Think about it. They have to have a carrier authority and they have to have a brokerage.
Broker, right? They're not going to go to Walmart and convince Walmart directly to give them a load and then double broker it. Like if you're just already moving that freight, like maybe the skimming, like you don't want to jeopardize that, right? That MC is worth more.
Yeah.
And I was at the TAPA conference recently, and they're actually showing on Telegram and on Facebook like MCs for sale.
Yeah.
And depending on who already trusts you and who you're set up with, that MC is worth more.
Yeah, what brokerage?
Right.
What?
So
yeah.
and so those ones are like more coveted and more valuable. So you don't want to jeopardize that. But it's crazy. You're gonna get like higher value freight, but you have to pretend to be a carrier. That's the problem. You have to pretend to be a good carrier.
Well, let's say like an MC gets bought. Like will verified carrier realize that this MC was just purchased and have to like redo the process on this people? Like, because I'm guessing since MCs are getting sold left and right now, how does that work on like verified carrier portal? Like, let's just say I bought an MC that was carrier. Will I get an email from verified carrier like, hey, realize this MC was purchased? You have to revalidate yourself.
Correct. Yeah, you have to revalidate. There's different things that will trigger it. Good. Because again, you can legitimately sell an MC. That's not an issue.
Right. It's like selling a business, right?
Selling a business. Like there's a lot of scammers buying MC.
Yeah.
But the problem is
that's the problem.
Yeah, like right. Bob's like, all right, I'm gonna get out of this. I think I'm more interested in
real estate.
Right? I'm gonna sell houses. And so it's like, okay, cool, great company. We look at the books. Like, I legitimately buy his business. The problem is, when I want to pretend to still be Bob.
Which still happens a lot, right?
Which happens a lot. So, like, you trust Bob, Bob. You've had issues. You guys like smoothed it out, right? Like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, or like, right? Like, sometimes you're profitable, sometimes you're not. Like, can we meet in the middle? Whatever it is, you have this relationship, and it's gone on for time.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna come in and pretend to be him so that I get this, but you don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what I do. Like, you don't know my intentions. You don't know that I just filed the MCS 150 and now I'm pretending to have more trucks and I'm gonna double broker a bunch of stuff. Like, you have no idea who I am or what my intentions are. That's the real issue. That's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so like, if it gets triggered in like the FMCSA or somewhere, like,
you're gonna lose your verified status. Log in again.
I'm curious, like, have you noticed, like, do you see that like there are like a lot of MCs being sold, like, and like that you have to like revalidate companies? Like, have you noticed that at all?
So as we're ramping up right now, and I think we're in the few thousands, the people doing it for the most part are legitimate.
Okay.
I think the way I look at it with us is like we're shining a flashlight right now. Like, the cockroaches are scurrying.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of time before we illuminate the whole board.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen that as much. We just caught it before they even become a verified carrier.
Okay.
So that's where we've seen issues. We've seen people upload someone's stolen ID, right? Wow. Brokers like, hey, can you guys look into these guys? Like, yes, shoot them, push them through the system. They go in and we have somebody, we know where they're out of, where they're trying to do the process. They got the ID of the owner, the front part of it. They upload that or take a picture of it, and then not knowing that we're going to obviously scan the back, because we use multiple third parties through the whole process. It's not just through any one company. And it was a different individual. When we see that individual, when we pop over, like, it's not the same person.
Oh, wow.
So just right in the second step or the first step, we already know. Yeah. That's a scam.
Okay.
We've had people try to like hold pictures and pretend to be a person, like, you see the back. They're trying to like move. Like, it has to be actual facial recognition. We see where people are logging in from, where they're making payments from. We've had Macedonia, Pakistan, Tanzania, Ukraine, but they're all claiming to be like, no, I'm a stateside carrier.
Yeah. Well, there's still like legitimate operations that are overseen.
There are legitimate operations, and you can do that. You just have to declare like that you're like when you're doing it. There's ways to do it, but they're not doing it because you want to seem like you're stateside, use an American phone number.
Sure.
Right. And
So you would just advise, like, just be honest. The truth will set you free.
yeah, I mean that in general.
If you're legit,
honest.
if you're legit, yeah.
But the reason
why you're legit overseas, sorry.
if you're legit overseas, yeah. But it's people want to make it seem like there's something else, and that's how you get fraud, right? You're making yourself seem like something else.
Now I'm thinking of something. You would think the main issue in the industry, in the trucking industry, is that it's too cheap to become it's too easy to become a broker.
Yeah, I mean,
Think about it, because that's the main issue, right?
it's definitely too easy to be a broker. I mean, it requires you just get insurance.
But the money's like if say they steal one load, they're gonna always pay whatever the price is. They're always gonna pay for it as soon as they steal a load. So it's always gonna be worth it for double brokers, I think, to create double.
It's more difficult.
That's what I'm saying.
What a bigger problem.
It's difficult.
It's like a year to get set up.
But it's easy to set up as both, and that's
Carrier too.
You'll hear too, like as a carrier, right? Like a Visa gift card, a phone number, and boom, you got yourself an MC Authority.
Think about that. That's kind of it's an easy level to get in.
It's true. I mean, it's way too easy to get set up.
Yeah,
but I mean, you could look at it different ways. Obviously,
there's the argument for the other side. It's America.
exactly.
Well, the ease of business, the ability to have start a company and shut a company down gives us this we need to call it elasticity, right? Like you're able to meet demand.
Yeah.
So if you make it super hard, everything is
slow.
We need more trucks. We need more trucking companies, and that's they have to jump through hoops and have all this money, and people are scared.
Yeah, and that's the veins of the country, right? So
it's just it's pros and cons, but we can't do it with the same level of lack of vetting that we have. That's it's just it's so wild right now, and cargo theft is in the billions. I mean, billions of dollars.
Do you think it's going to get better now that there's so much technology coming out to verify companies? Because it seems like it's such a rampant problem, and companies that are utilizing technology obviously are having I guess maybe fewer amounts of fraud and stolen loads, but it still seems like there's so many scammers and they're just doubling, and I don't know, there's so many of them that it's do you think we'll get to a point where we're okay, we eliminate the scammers, or is it going to be something that we're going to be
always battling,
continuing battling?
So at TAPA, this was brought up, and one of the professionals there, I think, brought up a good point in that we're just our industry. They found these loopholes, and they're exploiting it right now.
Well, there's so many loopholes.
There's so many loopholes, but the thing is, it's so behind other industries.
Yeah,
and right now they're exploiting it, and as everybody increases their security measures and trains people better, and we get to a point where you can verify loads, at pickup and different things. Different steps will be taken to where they're just going to see it's not worth the trouble anymore. They're going to go to shift to some other industry where it's going to be easy, or they might stop and then wait for a while and then come back. So you don't know. Because I think other industries had it more, like credit card theft,
and they were able to,
but it's just gotten to a point now, between the different codes and banks and notifications and whatever layers they use, or they just predict what is out of your norm, right? And so they have these different ways to catch it to where it just decentralizes it so much, and maybe people will steal this or that, but it's compared to before, it's just so much less.
If the industry was a castle, we've got in this industry a bunch of holes in our castle and just ditches under.
We're a rickety shack, right?
Yeah. And so you're just saying let's build up some of these walls. Let's put some spikes right here. Build a
So what's curious, in terms of the history of the industry, the evolution of scamming and stuff, because in the beginning it was double brokering, where and I guess 20 years ago, you take it back, or even 15 years ago. Double brokering was essentially really easy to do because no one really first of all cared, as long as the trunk delivered on time and the driver got paid. No one really really
they just skim it off the top.
And then people started realizing in foreign countries that I could make a lot of money as being a double broker, and they started opening up tons of offices, and people started doing that. And then all of a sudden there's all these double brokers in the market. We had a huge great market in 2020, 2021. So many double brokers then came in because they were just making so much money. And then all of a sudden, the industry, like the whole market flipped. All these brokers turned on double brokers, and they turned into scamming and stealing freight. I feel like they're
to make that money back.
Yeah, and like they're continuously making a lot of money just in different ways, and you just see like the industry evolving. You know, it's like like they realize, oh, they can't really go broker anymore because no broker's gonna work with them.
I think it's the same people doing it.
It's the same, like the same people at the top, and obviously, like I think there's obviously mafias related to this. There's like there's companies or there's people involved that are there's probably the same people that just keep kind of switching things up, and that is it's so easy to scam someone because it's just your phone and internet, connection. You don't see the person face to face. You don't know if they're I don't know, facial recognition and stuff like that. You have none of that. So like for me, I'm curious like how that's going to evolve. Like, will they continue to evolve and like think of another loophole or figure out a way to do that? Because it seems like they keep doing that, and like they're making it worse and worse.
Well, hopefully we plug in all the holes and they go back to stealing.
They're not coming into the castle as much, right? Yeah.
They'll switch to a different industry and start stealing cars.
I mean, but it is the hope that it goes down.
Sure.
Our take on it is like they're sophisticated. We gotta stay on top. So there's different features that we're gonna roll out. There's different stuff that we're already have in the works, that we're programming, that we're testing. But at the end of the day, like you said, all I need is just a phone number as a double broker. But how do you get the freight? You gotta pretend to be a carrier.
Yeah, that's true. You got to be a carrier to get the freight. So, and if you're verified, you can't really
like that question. You stop the drug dealer, or you stop like the drug dealer that's like your stop dealer. From the first point, and then it doesn't go.
Yeah. So what are some weaknesses of verified carriers? Like, what would you say that you guys need to improve? Is there anything that you guys need to improve that you guys are working on?
I mean, I don't want to sound cocky, but I think we are the industry-leading solution in that we're the ones taking real information. We're not relying on public information, FMCSA self-declared. We're not trying to like interpret it. We're not trying to give people grades. We're not trying to predict the future. We just want to we're like underwriting a loan, and we
doing the hard work that
this is legitimate. This is real information, and we've run it through multiple third parties to check it. And we could turn around and say, here you go, here's the package. Or, nope, this is like some numbers, chicken scratch on a napkin, and this person is claiming that this is real. That's, take it for what it's worth.
For it to work really well, do you need a lot of people already on it? Because I feel like this is the beginning of it, and it's already working. We've got these examples. And obviously that's just going to grow. I'm just kind of wondering how much, like, the more people that enter it, does it like, what's the curve? Is it like exponential that like it changes, or like, you know what I mean? Because like the way we sit here today, we still have the problem, and that's just because you guys are young. With time, as you set up with all the big major brokers and all the big brokers, that's going. Like, talk to me on that.
Yeah, our goal is to become the industry standard, so that if you want to haul freight in America, you got to be a verified carrier. Because if you don't want to become a verified carrier, what are you trying to hide? Right? Like, if the government just did these steps, we wouldn't exist. People are just making more money as trucking companies and doing real solid business. Like, that would be awesome. That's not going to happen right now. So our goal is to keep pushing to make it a standard. So the more we have, the more we're monitoring, the better it is. But at the end of the day, and I tell this to our customers, like, I'll go take any MC, I'll pull it up, I'll show you 6 different red flags. But the strength of it is when you say, hey, you want to haul my next load? Become a verified carrier. Then I can give you real information. Right? And so, and we've caught people, whether it's somebody's, a rail carrier, whether someone's pretending to have more trucks than they have, whether they're like, I don't even think this is a real company.
No.
Or they have like 19 affiliations, all tied to either the same phone number or overlapping VINs, or they even use the same address. Like, they didn't even try to use their aunt's address. Like, they just registered a bunch of MCs to the same ad, but we'll show you all that.
Oh, well, so like, in terms of like, for verified carrier, like, it's really important to understand, like, if these people behind the phone are legit, have a legitimate trucking company, but in terms of like safety scores, I think you do publish the safety scores.
Yeah, we share that information.
Okay. Well, you don't like judge someone on their safety score. It's not like, oh, by the way, like,
Yeah, no, that's
okay, that's for the broker. To like,
and that's at your discretion and how you work with them and what you do. Again, so we're not trying to predict carrier success or any, because this is where some people get into hot water because they're trying to use algorithms.
We should talk about this more.
Yeah, I think there was one of these platforms that pulled up somebody. Yeah, it was $1 billion company and they had this super low score and they're like, this is one of the most trusted names in the industry, and so your algorithm is off. Like, to have a really good, accurate algorithm, it's going to take years and years. And you have people who aren't in the logistics industry; they don't know how it works or the complexity of it, and so they'll just flag this and that as like negative things. But they're just industry standards, and so that's why we want to stay away from that stuff and just focus on the vetting. Just focus on like, no, this is a real company, real trucks. They're working. The owner, the employees are here. All the phone numbers, we've checked them. Like, these are actual employees. If they're not here on this carrier profile, like, don't talk to this person. They don't work at this company. Or ask them to update their phone number. Yeah, that's what we wanted.
Yeah, and honestly, the issue with some of these like reporting, like brokers, how they report it, or like put a red flag on a company. So sometimes, look, there's a company that's like 100 trucks, right? And some broker has a bad issue with one of the agents or one of the dispatchers, or something happens, he reports it as a red flag. This gets reported to all the.
He reports it where
on a different platform, like we were Andrey was saying that there's companies that kind of like report each company or on like a score, like a score. And then guess what? A lot of the other brokers just literally stop working with that company, with that carrier, because they're like, oh, something is fishy. Somebody reported, but then it could have been like just a bad issue with a broker and a dispatcher, But so there's companies out there that will literally block you on a platform, and then you can't even get signed up.
And when you're a trucking company and like, boom, suddenly all your other brokerages close you, that's devastating. That's like kills your business overnight because of a miscommunication or something happened with that specific truck, with that specific dispatcher, or with that specific broker.
There's that it has making money by putting false reports on people and saying, run this for free or give me $1,000 or whatever it is for me to take it off. It's all so lopsided.
Yeah.
And Bob might try to call to dispute this, and his phone number is blocked on some platforms.
Yeah.
And so that's the crazy part. So we're going to have verified reports that we're going to roll out little later on this year. And our whole thing is, if someone's making a complaint, you have to provide proof. And there's going to be a period for somebody to respond and say, like, no, that's not what happened. Like, they're saying I double brokered this. Like, here's my ELD logs.
Yeah.
All right. So you become an unverified report. Okay. But if a carrier doesn't have anything to, provide, and the broker provides us proof, like, this is a verified report. Like, this is bona fide information. And without verified, is take it with a grain of salt. But right now, every report is unverified. In the industry, that's what people do. And
so that's a great thing for the carriers, too, because the carrier can finally speak too, because what we're hearing a lot is the carriers are just like.
So I know when the my carrier pack or something like that, or we had an issue with them actually with one of the brokers, which was just a little miscommunication, and we had the proof. We actually send that into them. They're like, if you don't resolve it with the broker, we'll literally just send us proof. We'll take it down. So they actually do that. They actually will like verify it, and they will listen to both sides, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's great. That's what we need more of that.
Yeah,
there are these platforms that they don't just care for the carrier at all.
Yeah.
So
because it just goes up, kills a business.
Exactly.
And it's not verified.
And it's just because of sometimes just literally miscommunication, or something happens where there's a bad apple or something happens in the company with a brokerage side or the carrier side, and then that knocks down the whole company.
Yeah.
Not the whole company, but like the company has issue.
All the people, everyone. Yeah.
It's a huge effect for sure.
Yeah. So, Andrey, you were the safety compliance director for a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm just curious, how many runnings we're at?
Yes, exactly.
Skyline Transport.
So, like, I'm kind of curious if you could talk a little bit about that and how you transitioned into verified carrier. Like, what made you want, first of all, to do that role, and then how did you transition into verified carrier?
Well, I guess a little background for me is I was overseas. My last stint before coming back with my wife was doing quality management for a defense contract in Saudi Arabia. It was a Northrop Grumman subsidiary. Well, I originally came over for English, this, that, get my MBA, do some different things. Then, I landed in that role. They saw my business acumen. So kind of like, hey, can you help us? We're doing this ISO stuff. So I had to learn about ISO quality management. So I was doing that. Then that contract during COVID gets cut, like the funding for that government program. So like we come back stateside, just reacclimating, do a road trip with my wife around the States. And then, I hear from the CEO's brother that like, oh, hey, the safety compliance director is leaving. Maybe I think he'd be good for this role. And like, I talked to the CEO and seems like a lot of overlap with what I was doing, heavy focus on continuous improvement, quality management, policy making. So I had to ramp up on that safety compliance piece, specifically with FMCSA, all the CFRs and regs for, running a trucking company and operating on the road. So I was doing that. And then I had this other opportunity, which I was pre-screened for, different government role.
But before all of that, you started your career in the transport logistics space at C.H. Robinson?
C.H. Robinson, we go like further back. 2012 to 2014 before I moved to Spain. I was an account manager there at the Portland branch. So that's...
Oh, that's sweet. Were you...
Well, before that, I guess my dad had a trucking company. He had 9 trucks. So like, I did it for a long time. Like went in and out of the industry. Something else back. Like, I didn't know when I was coming back. I didn't know I was going to go back in trucking.
The industry,
it's wild. There's just so much stuff, and there's so many opportunities. But I guess going back, the trucking piece, then CHR. That's where I kind of cut my teeth at 2 years, and that's like 2 monitors, headset, phone,
and stir up some drama. I always hear that the Chicago CH office always does the best. And you were saying back in like 2013, 2014, the Oregon, Washington office?
2013, if I'm not mistaken, number 1 in the world.
And how many offices are there in the world?
There are over 200.
Over 200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. CH. Wow.
So shout out Portland branch.
We should visit that.
Yeah. They don't do like U.S. logistics.
So then you were a safety manager and then you moved into a verified carrier.
Yeah, so I hear our CEO had this idea, he's, getting scammed. So that's the thing, is like getting scammed is the worst. And you want to do something about it. And then you look at like what things exist to catch these guys, and it's like everyone's coming up short. So we're not tech guys or, from different fields trying to move into logistics, because we've seen that with different companies, next level of success, right? So like, no, we're logistics guys who are forced to move into the tech space to deal with this issue. Right. But it's coming from real pain, real experience, talking to real people, knowing people in the industry. And that's how we got to the product where it is. And so that's where we're at now. Trying to tackle it by knowing what they do and knowing how they operate and knowing about these loopholes, and just trying to do our best to close them.
Yeah. I feel like you went from like being a safety compliance director to like kind of like leading the charge and like it's like the next level of like, because I mean in a way, because you don't do compliance, I guess, on the verified carrier, but it's like figuring out like exactly like who's who in the industry. But
I mean it's another learning curve for me, but I'm always
the whole industry problem.
Dude, honestly, it's history. It's history in the making right here that's sitting with us. Honestly,
it's awesome.
Yeah. But glad to be here. Glad to be, asked to join and be part of the team. And I was like, I believe in what they're doing. This is something we direly need, because just watching how a company gets impacted, and that was a larger company. Like if you're smaller and you get stiffed on one load, like, you can Carmack agreement, maybe go to the shipper, but then you're stuck. It can go for months even if you do ever get paid.
Yeah.
What does that do? Like, what is that $5,000, $6,000 load? Like, how does that affect a small operator's life? Like, they're desperately needing that money. And that's people's lives. And so at the end of the day, on a mass scale, we want to root it out. But on a personal level, like, we're talking about protecting people's lives. We're talking about protecting people's business. We're talking about protecting, like, it's our supply chain. Right? It's the food on the shelves. Like, every time someone gets screwed, it's like, okay, that sucks for you. You got screwed. But what does that really do for the industry? It raises insurance rates. Yeah. What does that do for rates? It raises rates, right? Like everything just keeps inflating.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of the bad actors. Some of it is forces outside of our control. Some of it is just purely economics. But
A lot of it.
Thieves stealing, stealing money out of the industry. Like we pay for it. We pay for it at the end of the day. Like it gets passed on. Like companies don't just eat losses.
Yeah,
right.
What's the payment structure? Like, because like from my understanding, you're approaching brokers, and then brokers are setting up verified carrier, and then they basically tell the carriers, "Hey, you need to be a verified carrier in order to work with us." How does it work? Like, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, and for example, like let's just say a carrier wants to become a verified carrier. Like, how do they do that? And like, are there any costs associated with that? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, yeah. Currently, it's free. Our whole thing is we want people to try it. We want people to see the value. We want carriers to get on, start seeing some benefits like better loads, premium loads. Maybe they don't have enough history and they need like that little extra trust factor, like become a verified carrier.
To do that, I just hop on verified carrier.
Yeah, you just
Google search first link.
Verifiedcarrier.com. Get on there. You can sign up. I think you'll start seeing some insurance discounts, some factoring discounts. So there's stuff in the works. We're happy with
where you guys can make the money, if not like a membership fee.
Yeah, but no, there will be a subscription. So I think for most carriers, I think majority of MCs, like 90% is like 5 trips or under, you're going to be your $10.
Okay, and carriers are paying.
Carriers are paying, so they have their part, and I like to remind people, it's like a credit monitoring for your business. Then anyone's trying to steal your business, impersonate your business, pretend like they're part of your business. Like we're protecting you. Like you have your profile, just like the broker will have theirs to check stuff. You'll have yours to check stuff.
Sure.
You can update it. You can manage it. The brokers have their fee to users right now. The idea is $99.
Okay.
$25 every user on top of that. So the safety compliance department or compliance, whatever team usually tends to be smaller. Like if they want to roll it out more, it's a very reasonable fee. Our whole idea is to make the cost extremely affordable and manageable so that it's something the industry can actually use. We do have our costs because of the fact that we do use all these different third parties.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of just saying, trust me. Like, no. Here's this one that does the bill pay thing. You already trust them because you're using them for some of your bill pay. These guys for this, and it's the industry leading technology. And so that's something that we can stand behind and vouch for with our product.
That's cool.
But yeah, this thing where you want to come to the broker and sell them this mega expensive tool. Like, okay, that's a way to make money, but
how solving the issue?
Yeah, did it solve the issue? Has anyone pushed the needle? Like we have more cargo theft and double brokering this year than last year. Then last year was more than the year before. So like whatever we're doing, it's not working. So we need to change it.
Change the approach. Yeah. Fascinating. So like the carriers that you have signing up right now, anyone from an owner op to a 100 truck, like is there someone, like if you had to look at the camera right now and be like, who do you think, like how can it affect my business today? Like Bob, he signed up, right? And I signed up, and like, should I start telling my broker, hey, I'm a verified carrier? Like, what's like the ideal vision, like, of how this is functioning for you? Like, how would you want that to look?
Yeah, me and my team are doing a good job. You will get asked about it.
Okay,
right?
You and your team.
So if we're doing a good job, you'll get asked about it.
But carrier will be asked.
The carrier will be asked. But I want to say for carriers, you are going to see benefits. So if you want to lead the charge, if you want to set yourself apart, if you want to proudly, show your check mark that you're a verified carrier, throw it onto your email signature, right? You'll have like a badge that we could click and it'll take you to your status. Like go lead the charge. When I was safety compliance director, like smart way, do you really need it? Some people ask for it, some people don't. But if you're a company that wants to show that, like, hey, we have the latest equipment, we run, fuel efficient stuff, you can trust that we're not going to break down. Like you want to show that.
Right.
So if you want to do that, just do it now. Otherwise, eventually you might get asked
for you.
It's good for you. Yeah.
Carrier. Yeah. Like, yes, you're going to have to pay a little fee, right? But this is going to save you from somebody impersonating your company and you having a shit ton of stress or something, right?
Yeah.
That's how it helps you as the carrier. And the more carriers that sign up, the less chance of fraud and et cetera. And so you're playing a part.
And the less fraud that happens, the more the rates will go up to where they're supposed to be, because again, you're going to get the real load from the real broker or the real shipper, not from the double broker who's, again, at best skimming money, and at worst just going to stiff you and not pay you for that, hauling all that freight. and you're going to pay the driver, you're going to pay the tolls, you're going to pay the fuel.
Sure.
It'd be really cool if like you guys, like there was a system or a way to entice carrier reps at brokerages to tell their carriers to be like, yo, become a verified carrier and I could get you this dedicated lane, or I could get you this or something.
I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And I'd seen shameless plug because I really love the story. He had one of the big ones, probably top 5 brokerage. They're kind of doing some beta testing, but they had one carrier where they're like, hey, something's a little bit off. Can you guys look into this guy? All right, so this company starts our process. Popular last name for the wrong reasons in California. So he's doing this process. Things kind of look good. The guy's responsive. He, goes through 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. But then we see like, all right, credit card information for the payment was not the same as like the registration, or the registration is different than the bank. So 2 different last names. And we're like, all right, something's a little different. This is where, what I like about our team, what separates our product is we don't just say, all right, these 2 didn't match up, right? No, back office reaches out. They actually have a service rep that contacts the carrier, finds out what's going on, and then turns out there's a legal name change, and he sends us a document from a court showing that it changed from this name to this name. Boom, you can turn around to the carrier, say, verified carrier. Oh, well, that closed the identity. And so that's one of those things where they're just like, something's a little off. We had a feeling, and the last name already for some people, or just even some people just won't work with people in California right now.
Yeah, right.
Literally, like, I will not work with any new carrier.
Legitimately, I work with them.
So that was a case where we're able to help this actual company, actual owner, making a name for himself, actually change his name to get him away from some people associated with that last name and run a business honestly. And yeah, like, we were able to help him do that, make his life easier. And I'm proud of the fact that we're able to do that, we exist to make something like that happen.
Sure.
Awesome.
Dynamic Logistix is on a mission to create a better carrier experience with every single shipment. That means offering carriers competitive rates, communicating proactively, matching profile preferences with available loads, and processing automated payments within 48 hours of shipment delivery. Check them out at dynamiclogistix.com. That's logistics with an X.
Andrey, wanted to ask, how big is your team, and what are some of your future goals that you guys have for verified carriers?
Yeah, team size, I'm losing track. I want to say 17, 20 people and growing.
Okay.
And then, the future is keep onboarding people, grow the vetting team, development team, bring our ideas to life faster.
Do you guys use any like AI and stuff like that for onboarding, or not onboarding, for vetting?
I guess it's kind of like, since getting a little bit more into the tech world, that's a joke that like everyone just says AI.
The stock price goes up 100%.
Right? Like, hey, I have this tech idea, and they're like, I'm sorry, we got another meeting. And you're like, AI, cancel everything. What do you got? I'll triple whatever you want. Right? So there's some element of it in some form. Yes. Could that be the editor on ChatGPT? No, I'm just kidding. There's elements of how we put data and aggregate data and be able to identify certain things. Yes. But that's what I don't want to like sell it like we're like AI. Again, we don't predict the future. We don't give people grades. We don't, like, that's not what we do. We just vet. But anything that can be used to enhance the process, that's what we'll do. But we firmly believe in this human piece. Like, whatever you use, it's like an Excel spreadsheet, right? Like, it helps the productivity of an accountant. If you know what you're doing, you know what to look for. If you're not using it right, it'll just give you powerfully misguided numbers.
Yeah.
It'll be so off. So just any tool that we can use to enhance the process, but then at the end of the day, you got to have that human element. You got to have these touch points. You got to help, like that one carrier with the identity piece and the name change. Like, AI might have just flagged it, moved on. And we're working with huge numbers. We are in this industry. Like, there's over 300,000 MCs. That's over 300,000 companies. And behind those companies can be multiple trucks.
Yeah.
Hundreds to thousands of employees. And so, logistics is complicated.
How many drivers are there in America? It's like over 1 million, right?
Roughly over 1 million. I don't know how many exactly.
Three something million, I think.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But like,
big number.
out of those 300,000 MCs, do you know how many like are actually like working MCs now? Like, because like I feel like a lot of those MCs are probably just like kind of like already shut down. Like not a lot of them, but I would say like at least probably half of them aren't actually.
No,
I don't know. I mean, the majority of MCs is just owner ops. So it's just going to be a driver with his own truck.
Yeah.
And so those people are operating. Of those owner ops, obviously in the last, 12 months, it's been difficult times. Some may have just kept the MC active, but they went and they're jumping to a company truck and they're going to work as a W-2 driver or 1099, until things improve. So like those numbers, the MC numbers aren't 100% indicative of the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot because I think like 89 or 88% of the industry is literally owner operators or 1 to 5 companies. So it's like
Truck.
trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not, major fleet
Sure.
like Swift and Knight and all those. It's a lot of owner operators out there.
Definitely.
Small. Although the majority of drivers still do work at big companies.
Like the Nissan or
Like the thousands, right? Like Swift Knight might have thousands of drivers.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to have, so there's more, it's 50,000 drivers. You got to have 50,000 owner ops that'll match that. So
Yeah.
the MPs is huge. The number.
Yeah. But most of them are like one trucks, whereas like most of the drivers work for them.
Yeah. So it's a mix. I mean, it's a mix. And the drivers can float between being an owner op and being leased on or just purely becoming a company driver. And so things are changing depending on who has freight. Right.
Sure.
That's the end of the day. But that's why I think people just looking at MCs that are like a lagging indicator of how many are active and how many are dropping off and what that means, capacity, meeting, supply, demand, all that stuff. But sure, that's a conversation for another day.
Well, what's interesting I want to point out is that I've interviewed a decent amount of truck drivers at truck stops, like in the U.S., and I've heard so many times from truck drivers that used to be owner ops, but now they're company drivers because they hated being owner ops. Like you have this conception as a truck driver when you're first starting out, like, oh, I want to be owner op. Yeah. I want to have my own business. I want to make as much money as I can per load. But then it turns out like you have to deal with all that comes with that. Yeah. And so
you're running a company. You're running your safety compliance. You're making payments. You're doing all this stuff. And you're like, I didn't have to do half that work.
I say this all the time. When I worked for my brother, so my brother had a trucking company. I would fly to Ukraine twice a month each time, That's when I was a company driver. Then I bought my own truck. I was working for Gulfstream in Chicago. Then I flew like once a year because I was like, man, I got a truck payment. I got to make this. Now I opened my truck, our own trucking company. I haven't went overseas for like 2 or 3 years. That's how it is. When you're a company driver, I think it depends what company you work for. Also, like maybe if you're working for a mega fleet, then you have like limited time. But like if you work for a good, smaller company that can kind of let you take time off or do your own thing, it's one of the best things probably out there.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
For sure. A lot of drivers from Eastern Europe do that. Like, I mean, in America, they come back in Europe for like a month or two.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and a lot of owner operators just don't realize like how much stuff goes into even with fraud. Like they think like, oh, I can book my own load up myself, all this stuff. Then they book a load with one bad broker or with a high rate. Exactly. Yeah. They get scammed and they're like, honestly, and some of them don't even tell anyone because they're too like, they feel
yeah. And I think the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
I remember when my dad had a trucking company, I'm looking at the boards and I'm like, they always meet somebody at a truck stop that's making like $2,000 more.
Oh, for sure.
The same exact lane, always, without fail. Yeah. Right. And so it's just, it could be true. You never know, right? Like somebody calls somebody up at 4:30 on a Friday, like I need to move this now versus like somebody pre-booked it a week in advance and said pick it up anytime and there's no rush. Like there's just so much that goes into it. And so it's, I think everyone here can agree it's a wild industry.
It is.
Don't become an owner operator.
Don't become an owner unless the rates skyrocket soon. But
and then become an owner operator when the rates are skyrocketing, and then come back with.
I mean, I think that's what a lot of drivers do. Believe it or not, like when the market switched to what it is now, believe it or not, like some of our company drivers make more money than like the owner operators. Sure. But that's because like I would say the owner operators have a little bit more time that they sit at home and maybe they drive a little bit less miles.
Chill.
But I think the company drivers are definitely right now.
Yeah. It's kind of goals, right? Like what are your priorities? What do you want to do? Sure. You also want to take more risks, but potentially more upside when things go up. So but in any case, just become a verified carrier.
I had a driver. I had a driver come to our cross dock and he's driving for a company now and we got to talking and he was an owner operator. He bought a truck And now he has to work for, I think, like 1 or 2 more years just to pay that truck off. And that truck is sitting. So he parked that truck. The truck is sitting. He's making payments on it because obviously he doesn't want to go bankrupt or fold on it. And now he's driving as a company driver, and paying off that truck.
Wow.
I'm like, that sucks. Imagine like people got into it like 2 years ago thinking they're going to make all this money. And then, they have all these trucks.
And bought a truck and trailer for $300,000.
Yeah.
It's full on mortgage on it.
I mean, it's honestly sad because they got fooled by the people, posting all this stuff on social media and, selling all these courses like, hey, go buy your own truck. You're going to become this and this. And then they do that. And then the truck breaks down or they have a little minor issue and pretty much they're screwed.
The same with brokers, though. There's so many freight broker schools out there. It's insane. Like, I've had DMs from people where it's like saying, how do I get shippers? I'm like, I don't know, go work for a freight brokerage and learn.
Yeah.
Like, I just took a course online that says I could like find a shipper and like be a broker now. So it's like got something to do. I'm like, okay, like good luck, like, don't reach out. Don't ask me how to find a shipper.
Right.
Find it,
If you take the course, apply.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it happens so much. And like you like if they do like the ads, they run the ads on Google and like all this stuff. So when you Google stuff, it's like the first thing that comes up is like their course is freight broker training. It's like become like a freight broker in a month, and like pay
Make $1 million.
Exactly. It's like and like they're selling you on these like hopes and dreams. They're going to make a lot of money being a freight broker, and like people who've never heard of what a freight broker is, because like before I became a freight broker, I didn't even know what a freight broker existed.
Right.
They're like, oh wow, this is cool. Like, I could sit at home, I could work from here anywhere, and then like you start calling shippers, and like no one wants to work with you.
Yeah.
And like the one that does is probably like a scammer or something.
Yeah.
And won't pay you as well, because there's some shippers that don't pay their bills too. I've had a broker reach out to me, telling me that a shipper owes them $250,000.
Oh wow.
And like it was just like, I mean, like, what can I do? I'm like, why would you give that much line of credit to a company that you don't know have a good relationship with? Technically, like if you're a broker and you set up a shipper, you like give them like a $10,000 limit, and then like you do those like 10K, because 10K could be like 3 loads.
Yeah.
It could be 1 load or 2 loads, and so like you run that and you get paid, and then you kind of increase, you build that trust. This guy just was like, okay, I'm getting all these loads, so it's like
the shipper's probably happy though.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's rough out there. I mean, it's rough for brokers and carriers. Like, you gotta be careful. You have to know who you're working with. Like, know your customer, know your carrier.
It is the Wild West in this industry.
And I think a lot of brokers are getting into it too, so it is making it a lot tougher for everyone else.
More competitive on the rates and stuff like that. People are like,
and they're nickeling and diming each load. A
lot of brokers that are just like volume based, like they're publicly traded, and they need to reach like, they don't really care if they're going to make $5 on it. They just need that revenue, because like they're going to suck, or their quarterly report is going to show that. And
it sucks so bad because they'll like try to not pay you lumpers, or not lumpers, like detention or anything like that, because they're so picky about that $50 or whatever, or that $100 when you have a driver sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, getting unloaded. Like, who's paying for his time?
A lot of problems in this industry.
So a lot of opportunity. So I think the only way to solve it for the next president.
Go down that road.
Or are we voting for him? But hopefully we solve this, step by step.
Yeah. And here's a man that's proposing a solution to a big, big problem.
Yeah. One step at a time. Join the fight.
Yeah. So actually, like people to help make this happen and for this to spread as fast as possible, like what are some things people like you'd love for people to start doing to?
I mean, I think for us, fighting this piece, having this become part of the due diligence with brokerages, having carriers just, jump on, protect their businesses, they'll start seeing some benefits too. I think it's one of these things. But at the end of the day, for like the brokers, and this is what me and it was Dale Prax from Freight Validate, it was Luke from Highway. The consensus is like, if you're not using something, use any of the platforms, right? Like, okay, you could say we're competitors, but all of our mission aligns in that we want to get scammers out.
Yeah.
And like, we want to help the industry. So if you're not using somebody, just like get on a platform.
But what are those platforms again? Because we started this by talking about the setup companies that you have, RMIS, etc. But the companies like yours verify it's either you guys or Highway, and there's that way that
I try not to mention their names.
No, just don't give them attention.
No. I mean, they're out there. The people who are listening, I mean, just look up carrier fraud and look up different products. People are taking their own approach to it. Obviously, our approach comes from a different place, and we have a different way of doing the vetting piece. And, we want that direct involvement from the carrier. We want to talk to them. So, I guess just that. Just get on, use a tool. If you want the best tool, it's Verified Carrier, verifiedcarrier.com. But yeah, but at the end of the day, it's going to take the industry having like a shift mentally from, I just want to do things as quickly as possible, to we need to do things right. We need to make better choices. We need to take a little bit more time to analyze, to create better filters to get fake companies out and scammers, fraudsters out. And then overall, it will be a benefit to us. But there is that process change management that's a little bit more painful, because you have to do something that interrupts your natural flow. And we've talked to people over and over again on different shows. It's like, well, how fast is it? Like, how quickly can we catch them or whatever? And it's like, it's price, time, and quality. You can only have two, right? Like, you can't get all three. It doesn't exist. Well, that unicorn is in la la land. So it's the same with catching, the bad guys. Like, if you want to work quick, they know you want to work quick. That's when they're going to pull it off.
Yeah.
You're more likely to make a mistake or bypass even one of the processes that you have that normally would work, because you quickly got to do something.
Yeah. So it's those last minute loads that are probably,
it's a good degree of it, or somebody's just being lazy, or somebody didn't do that extra something or other, right? They know that. They know. But yeah, the pressure is a big piece. If you can pressure someone to making a decision quickly, you're not catching them at their most logical.
Yeah.
Sure.
100%.
Makes sense. Andre, thank you so much.
Hey, it's all mine. Thank you for having me.
This is awesome coming on. Had a great time.
Yeah.
Any last touches to finish off here, Bob?
You read any books? Have any recommendations for books for people? We used to ask that, remember?
No, we don't read any books.
No?
No. I'm actually reading a great book right now, Ikigai. It's like the Japanese way to happiness and
the center of all the tiers.
Yeah. Have you read that by chance?
I'm familiar with the concept.
Oh,
I don't think I've read a book.
Good book. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. No, I've lately been doing audio books.
That's what I've been reading. Oh, Spanish?
Romantic novels. Romantic.
No, that's right. Yeah, you're writing down there.
I'm listening actually to a book called Why I Love Capitalism. Have you guys heard of that or no?
Is it by Donald Trump?
No. It's actually the guy that created Home Depot.
Oh, no.
Like a co-founder of it. Interesting. Yeah. He started off from, we were just like a nobody, and then just worked on Wall Street and invested a lot of money. Pretty cool.
When we go to Albania, tell us about that.
Yeah. We're flying to Albania in a couple hours.
If you guys want to know, we'll do a pod on it.
Yeah. We'll be in Albania tonight.
Tonight.
There. Oh, go to Albania. Yeah, but this was great. Thanks for coming on. Thanks. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.